I am Tholax 3rd Fleet Commander of the Concordat, and I made the gravest mistake of my career. I believed I understood war. The Galactic Concordat had conquered 17 systems across 3 spiral arms without meaningful resistance. Our strategy was flawless, overwhelming technological superiority coupled with precise psychological warfare. We were methodical, clinical, efficient. Our military academies taught that victory belonged to the side with superior technology and tactical discipline. When we discovered Earth, a backwater planet with primitive spaceflight capabilities, our intelligence assessment designated it a Class 3 acquisition target. Simple, routine, perhaps worthy of a footnote in the fleet logs, but nothing more. Humans have fractured governance and limited orbital defenses, reported Vexery Morth, my chief intelligence officer. Their military technology lags our standards by approximately 2 centuries. I remember nodding with the casual indifference that comes from absolute certainty. Standard procedure, then. Neutralize their command nodes, demonstrate force superiority, and accept their surrender within the standard 48 units. How confidently wrong I was. The initial assault proceeded exactly according to doctrine. Our vanguard ships disabled their primitive satellites and weapons platforms. We deployed atmospheric penetrators over key military installations. We broadcasted the standard terms of surrender on all their communication frequencies. Then something unexpected happened. Nothing. Where is their capitulation signal? I demanded after the deadline passed. Vexery's facial membranes pulsed with confusion. Unknown, Commander. They've established no diplomatic channel. Their military forces are dispersing. Instead of centralized resistance or immediate surrender, the humans scattered into small units. They abandoned conventional positions. Their command structures seemingly dissolved. They're in disarray, pronounced Krelzoth, my tactical officer. Their resistance has collapsed before it began. I should have recognized the warning signs when our initial occupation forces reported strange encounters. Harmless-looking infrastructure that concealed deadly traps. Civilian settlements that emptied before our arrival, only to become staging grounds for harassment attacks. Supply transports that disappeared along secured routes. By the 14th day, we'd lost contact with 23 forward operating bases. Our casualties mounted despite encountering no formal opposing army. What is happening? I demanded during an emergency command conference. Where is their military? Everywhere and nowhere, replied Ground Commander Pelix, his voice strained. They don't fight like a conventional force. They strike and vanish. They've adapted civilian technology to military purposes. They use our protocols against us. Impossible, I said. They can't have counters to our technology. They don't counter it, Pelix responded. They simply refuse to fight where we're strong. They engage only when they have advantage. And Commander, they seem to prefer close combat. They're soldiers. They don't react to danger as expected. The first indication that we'd gravely miscalculated came when I interviewed a captured human. Unlike other species, who responded to captivity with predictable patterns of fear, bargaining, or resignation, this human exhibited unsettling calm. Your resistance is futile, I informed the prisoner, a weathered human called Valhalla. Not their birth designation, I learned, but a call sign. The human's response haunts me still. We haven't even started resisting yet. This is just us getting warmed up. I dismissed it as bravado. I was wrong. We understood war as a scientific endeavor. They understood it as an art form perfected through generations of bloodshed. I should have retreated that very moment. Our fleet archives contain detailed subjugation protocols for 412 distinct sentient species. None prepared us for humans. On the 23rd day, I received a disturbing report. An entire garrison vanished from a region called Afghanistan. 300 elite Concordat soldiers with full defensive perimeters, simply gone. The only evidence was a crude symbol painted on the remaining walls, a stylized skull with primitive script beneath it reading, "Welcome to the graveyard of empires." Explain this, I demanded of our xenoanthropologist, Drixon alum. Her membranes paled. "Commander, I've been analyzing their historical records. This planet has never achieved unified governance. They've spent their entire civilizational development fighting themselves." "That suggests weakness, not strength," I countered. "With respect, Commander, I believe it suggests the opposite. Their history is an unbroken chain of warfare. While we perfected efficient conquest, they perfected endless adaptation to conflict. Their military doctrines aren't theoretical. They're distilled from constant practice." I dismissed her concerns as academic overthinking, but the evidence mounted daily. Our forces controlled the skies, but found the ground increasingly untenable. Human resistance didn't centralize, it multiplied. Most alarmingly, they learned with impossible speed. Tactics effective in initial engagements became deadly traps in subsequent ones. They analyzed our technology, discovered vulnerabilities we ourselves hadn't recognized, and exploited them ruthlessly. "They shouldn't be capable of this," Krell protested during a particularly grim tactical review. "Their technological development doesn't support this level of adaptation." Drixina cleared her throat. "It's not their technology adapting, Commander. It's their veterans." "Veterans?" I asked. "Humans who survived previous conflicts. Their military structures formally incorporate the knowledge of previous wars. They call it institutional memory. Their veterans don't retire from warfare, they become teachers of it." Our turning point came during the Battle of Site Yankee, a human military installation we'd occupied in a region called Texas. We believed it secure. We were wrong. The attack began at local midnight, not with advanced weapons, but with simple explosives that disabled our sensor arrays. Then came the humans, not in vehicles or powered armor, but on foot, moving with disturbing silence through terrain they knew intimately. The survivor reports described methodical, coordinated small unit tactics. These weren't conscripts or common soldiers. They were specialists called Rangers and Special Forces. Warriors who had transformed their bodies and minds into weapons through brutal training protocols that would be considered criminal under Concordat law. Most disturbing was their psychological resilience. Our psi emitters, designed to induce retreat responses in primitive nervous systems, had minimal effect. The humans pressed forward through pain thresholds that should have been incapacitating. By dawn, Site Yankee had fallen. Of the 800 Concordat troops stationed there, 17 survived. One traumatized survivor reported hearing the human commander transmit a message as our forces collapsed. "Bluffer actual to command. Package delivered. Veterans sending regards." That evening, Vexery brought me a translation of intercepted human communications, a conversation between their resistance leaders. They expected us to fight tomorrow's war. We're fighting them with yesterday's veterans. Good hunting then. Until Valhalla. Until Valhalla. I didn't understand the reference then. I wish I still didn't. By the third month, we controlled less territory than we had after the first week. My superiors demanded explanations I couldn't provide. The Concordat High Command sent Observer Thexis Vi, a veteran of 11 campaigns, to evaluate my leadership deficiencies. "This is unprecedented," Thexis stated after reviewing our situation. "Your forces outmatch them in every measurable metric." "Yet we're losing," I replied simply. "Impossible. They can't defeat our technology. They don't attempt to. They defeat our personnel." We stood in my command center watching tactical displays where small human units systematically isolated and eliminated our forces despite overwhelming technological disadvantages. They didn't engage our gunships directly. They ambushed the maintenance crews. They didn't attack our armored columns. They disabled key bridges and tunnels, then picked off the stranded vehicles one by one. "This defies military logic," Thexis insisted. "No," said Drixina, who had become indispensable to our understanding. "It defies our military logic. Their entire history has been fighting superior forces. They've developed cultural philosophies around it." She displayed historical images of human conflicts spanning centuries. Primitive humans in various environments using improvised weapons against more advanced adversaries. From each conflict, knowledge passed to the next generation. They have a concept called asymmetric warfare, she explained. Their veterans don't just preserve knowledge of how to use weapons, they preserve the knowledge of how to defeat theoretically superior opponents. That night, a human resistance cell breached our command ship security using access codes they couldn't possibly have obtained. They didn't attempt sabotage. Instead, they left a primitive data storage device containing personal information about every senior officer, including images of our family compounds on homeworlds thousands of light years away. The message was clear: distance would not protect what we valued. Observer Thexus recommended immediate withdrawal. High Command rejected the proposal, citing reputational damage to Concordat expansion protocols. Instead, they authorized the deployment of K-weapons, planet-cracking munitions previously used only as deterrence. I objected, not for moral considerations, but practical ones. If we demonstrate willingness to destroy inhabited worlds, we lose all leverage in future conquests. The entire Concordat security model relies on civilized annexation, not extermination. My objection was noted and overruled. K-weapon deployment was scheduled for the following cycle. Then came the counter we hadn't anticipated. Human infiltration units, led by warriors they called Delta and SEALs, penetrated 3 Concordat capital ships simultaneously. Not to destroy them, to capture them. Impossible, Thexus declared. No primitive species could operate our vessels. Yet the tactical displays showed all 3 ships altering course, heading directly toward Concordat core worlds, with K-weapons armed. They're bluffing, Thexus insisted. They can't possibly understand the activation protocols. The response came minutes later. Detailed schematics of the K-weapon systems transmitted on open channels, along with launch trajectories calculated for maximum damage to Concordat population centers. The human transmission was simple. We've studied your weapons. We've studied your tactics. We've studied you. Withdraw or discover what happens when Earth veterans decide the war comes home. Their most terrifying advantage wasn't technological. It was psychological. They were willing to escalate beyond rational limits. Our strategic models couldn't account for opponents who viewed acceptable losses differently than any species we'd encountered. That night, High Command ordered immediate cessation of hostilities and withdrawal of all Concordat forces from the Sol system. We had lost not just a battle, but our understanding of warfare itself. 5 years have passed since our defeat at Earth. I no longer command a fleet. Instead, I lead the newly formed Concordat Adaptive Warfare Institute, created specifically to study what we now call the human anomaly. The Concordat's expansion has slowed dramatically. 17 planned annexations were postponed indefinitely. Our military doctrine undergoes the most extensive revision in 15 generations. Most significant is the treaty we've established with Earth, not as subjects, but as equals. The terms were humiliating for the Concordat, but necessary. In exchange for technological exchange and mutual defense, humans agreed not to expand beyond their solar system for 50 years. Some counselors argued this gives them time to advance to our level. They missed the point entirely. The humans don't need our technology to defeat us. They demonstrated that conclusively. Today, I welcome the first human instructor to our institute, retired Fleet Master Karishma Valkyrie, Thar, veteran of Earth's 3rd global conflict and the Concordat War. Her presence caused considerable discomfort among my staff. Why did you agree to teach us? I asked her privately. Her weathered face showed the calm confidence I'd come to recognize as characteristic of human veterans. Because veterans understand something everyone else forgets. The purpose of mastering war is ultimately to prevent it. I've spent countless hours studying human military history since our withdrawal. What fascinates me isn't their weapons or tactics, but their veterans. Warriors who survived unimaginable conditions and passed that knowledge forward. While our society relegated warfare to specialized castes, humans integrated military experience throughout their civilization. Their veterans became leaders, teachers, innovators. They built resilience into their cultural foundations. Fleet Master there now leads seminars on what humans call fourth-generation warfare and cognitive domain operations. My analysts find her methods disturbing and primitive. They fail to recognize the sophistication behind the simplicity. Yesterday, during a simulation exercise, my best tactical team was systematically dismantled by her strategies. "Your people fight with technology," she explained afterward. "Earth's veterans fight with everything: terrain, psychology, weather, time itself. We don't see limitations, we see tools." The Concordat High Council remains divided on humanity's status. Some advocate for renewed conflict with overwhelming force. Those of us who actually faced Earth's Veterans Council patience and respect. I keep on my office wall a piece of human military wisdom given to me by Fleet Master Thar. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. We believed we understood war as a technological equation, superior firepower guaranteeing victory. Earth's veterans taught us that war is human experience distilled through generations of blood and survival. The Concordat has begun recruiting its own veterans as advisors rather than discarding them after service. We've established officer exchanges with Earth's military academies. We're learning, adapting, evolving. In my darkest moments, I wonder if our defeat was inevitable from the moment we targeted Earth. Not because of technology or numbers, but because we faced opponents shaped by thousands of years of constant conflict. A species that turned warfare into an art form passed from veteran to recruit in an unbroken chain of hard-won wisdom. I believe the greatest testament to humanity isn't their victory against us, but what followed. They could have pursued us. They could have captured our technology and turned it against the Concordat. Instead, they offered terms and maintained them honorably. Fleet Master Thar tells me this is the final lesson of Earth's veterans. Anyone can learn to start a war. The true wisdom is knowing how to end one. The Concordat no longer believes we understand war. Instead, we study the veterans of Earth, hoping to understand peace.